welcome to the afternoon session of the May 13th Portland City Council meeting. Would you please call the roll?
Fish.
Here.
Saltzman.
Here.
Novick.
Here.
Fritz.
Here.
Hales.
Here. We have a couple of items from this morning's calendar that we've got to deal with, and then we'll move on to the things that are actually scheduled for this afternoon. So bear with us, folks, while we dispose of a couple things from this morning. Let me just make the usual announcements here at the beginning of the meeting. Welcome, everybody. If you're here to testify on a council item this afternoon, please sign up on the sign-up sheet, which is either outside or now here in the room with our council clerk. If you're here to speak on a council calendar item, just state your name. You don't have to give us your address. If you're a lobbyist under the city's code, you're required to disclose that. You know who you are, so make sure you do disclose that. Please testify only to the matter at hand. If you have handouts to present to the council on a calendar item, please give them to the council clerk. And again, as usual, we ask that people maintain decorum in this room. If you want to indicate support or opposition to your fellow citizens' point of view, feel free to give them a thumbs up or a wave of the hand, or if you really want to indicate disapproval, give them a thumbs down. But we ask that people not make vocal demonstrations of any kind in the council chambers, and we have to sometimes gavel the meeting closed to reinforce that point because it's really important that everyone's point of view be heard. So those are the rules of procedure, and if we could go back to the three items that were on the calendar this morning that have to be voted on now. We had the hearings, but we also have an amendment to one of them. So the first of them is item 479.
Authorize an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon State Police Criminal Investigations Division for the use of Oregon Department of Justice Oregon High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Program grant funds to reimburse the state for drug interdiction efforts on behalf of the HIDTA interdiction team.
Okay, any council questions on that matter? Then roll call vote on 479.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Novick. Fritz.
Aye.
Hales.
Aye. Okay, at 480, I believe there's an amendment.
Accept a grant in the amount of $172,700 and appropriate $40,000 for fiscal year 2014-15 from the Oregon Department of Justice and the Oregon High Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas Program for sworn personnel overtime and program expenses for Portland interdiction efforts.
Okay, so that's the language that was in the amendment. So do we have to move that amendment, or is it already, it says included, so.
Yeah, we haven't.
Is that right?
Yeah, we
So-
haven't made a motion for the amendment to amend Directive B to add general fund information.
Oh, I see, there it is. Okay, so can I have a motion, please, to add that amendment to the
moved.
Directive B? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call on the amendment, please.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Hales.
Aye. And on the amended ordinance.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Hales.
Aye. Okay, and then finally, the third ordinance, 481.
Accept a grant in the amount of $36,000 from the Oregon Department of Justice and the Oregon High Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas Program for program expenses for Portland Metro Gang Task Force interdiction efforts.
Okay, any further council discussion about this? Then roll call, please.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Novick.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Hales.
Just a quick comment about all three of these. We hear testimony sometimes sort of on one side of an issue, and that kind of was the case this morning. The Portland Police Bureau is not spending much time or money on dealing with marijuana, but we do have a huge upsurge in the use of heroin in our city and a really terrible resurgence of the use of methamphetamine. And those are tragic addictions, and we've got a lot of addicted people, and some of them commit crimes, and some of them are being supplied by gang members, and gangs are fueling their operations, if you will, with a combination of human trafficking and drugs. And so far this year, I've lost track as of this week, but as of Monday, we've had 45 gang violence incidents so far this year and well over 300 shots fired in our neighborhoods, including shots going through people's bedroom windows who had nothing to do with gangs. So it's a serious problem, and that drugs are not just a public health concern. We have this wonderful service coordination team, and we have Multnomah County doing all the great work that they're doing, but it's still a police matter. And I think sometimes we forget that it's still a police matter. So I just wanted to get those points on the record and thank the folks at the Police Bureau that are focusing on the human cost of the huge wave of drugs that we're dealing with, and the fact that that's a major profit center for gangs that are still pretty serious in our city. Aye. Okay, now let's move to the afternoon calendar and take the first item, 485.
45, consider proposal of the City of Portland Water Bureau for historic demolition review and the Bureau of Development Services staff and Portland Historic Landmarks Commission recommendation of approval for the demolition of 1894 Reservoir Number 3, 1894 Reservoir Number 4, and the 1946 Weir Building, all contributing resources in the Washington Park Historic District at 2403 Southwest Jefferson Street, LU 14-249689 DM.
Okay, I think our city attorney has some instructions for us at this point, right?
Thank you.
Sir,
Good
can you
afternoon.
move over a little bit so we can see the city attorney?
Good afternoon. Just to briefly summarize where we are, the council held a hearing on April 23rd on this matter. The record was held open for 2 successive 7-day periods and closed at 5 p.m. on May 7th, and the evidentiary record has been closed since that time. I understand this morning, as part of item 462, the communications section of the agenda, the council members heard some comments from Floyd Jones, ostensibly on the Water Bureau budget, but also primarily directed to the Washington Park Reservoir demo review that's before you. Since the evidentiary record is closed, my recommendation to you is that you disregard her testimony and make it explicit that you're doing so.
Hey, folks, I'll clear this chamber if that happens again. Now, maybe so, but I'll clear this chamber if that happens again. She's giving us legal information that we need to follow under state land use law. And depending on which side of the issue you're on at any given moment, you might like for us to follow state land use law. So please continue.
The purpose of today's proceeding is for council discussion and deliberation. Any vote you take today should be tentative only, and we will bring this back at a future date for the adoption of findings and a final decision.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're at the point, I believe, on this item where we're ready for council deliberation and a possible motion. Is that right? So any further questions for the staff or city attorney before we act? And if not, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the application of the Water Bureau.
Second.
No demo.
Further discussion?
No demo.
Okay, you're done.
Why don't
You're
you tell
done.
them all the money you already
You're done.
spent?
We're adjourned and we'll be back in 10 minutes. respectful in this chamber. I really didn't appreciate what happened earlier. We like to, we're going to proceed, folks. You don't get to come in here and shout. Sorry, you don't, but we're going to proceed. Okay, council will come back to order. Without objection, I'm going to suspend the rules and reconvene and take up the motion that was on the table for item 485. Further discussion, roll call.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman. Novick. Fritz. Hale.
Aye, done. Thank you, that's fine.
We need to set a date.
Aye.
Hale.
Aye.
She's gone.
Okay.
Hillary's gone.
Item 486, please.
We could do it in the morning. Yeah.
Okay, we'll set findings for June 10th, is that right?
June 10th at,
Okay,
yes.
June 10th for findings?
Yes, at what time? Time?
10 a.m.
What
10.
time?
10 a.m.
Oh, 2 p.m.?
10.
2 p.m.?
10.
June
10
10th.
a.m.
Findings,
2 o'clock
June
p.m.
10th at 2 p.m.
10
Okay.
a.m. 10. June 3rd without her. June 10th. Okay, at 10 a.m.
Okay. Item 486, please.
Amend timeline and case file for independent police review, citizen review committee appeal.
Okay, let's ask the auditor to come forward.
I read the item. I read the item.
Start respecting the public's will.
Go ahead, Constantine.
No demo. No demo. No.
Go ahead, Constantine.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm here on the proposed code change to city council. So this is an ordinance item that's related to Department of Justice settlement agreement.
So apparently you people don't care about police accountability? We're talking about police accountability right now. We're talking about police accountability.
So, council members, I have a proposal on the proposed code change, have a PowerPoint release. So, a little bit of
We're
background.
talking
on
about
the
police
CRC.
accountability. That's very important.
So the Citizen Review Committee was created in 2001. There are 11 members of the CRC. The CRC members are appointed by City Council. The CRC members serve on the Police Review Board and on a rotating basis, and they also serve as an advisory body to the Independent Police Review and the Chief of Police.
We're not allowed to. It's a quasi-judicial land use appeal.
Let me go ahead.
Let them yell for a few minutes. let you start over in a minute. You just needed to do that.
You want this, you want us to move this to the second?
Okay, Constantine, why don't you just begin at the beginning?
Should I go away or stay, or what do you prefer?
Hang on, I don't think your microphone's on. Could you turn up Constantine's microphone? Good. Good.
Everyone who voted yes on the
Go ahead.
reservoir destruction.
All right, go ahead, Constantine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a item in front of council about the proposed code change to the Citizen Review Committee, and put together a PowerPoint display about the Citizen Review Committee. So the Citizen Review Committee was created in 2001. It has 11 members. The auditor recommends nominees to the City Council for appointment. They are 3-year terms. The CRC members also serve as rotating members on the Police Review Board in use of force cases. The Citizen Review Committee serves as an advisory body to the Independent Police Review and the Chief of Police. So a little bit background on city code provisions relating to the CRC. City Code 321-140 authorizes CRC to hear appeals of misconduct cases. Either a community member or a police officer dissatisfied with the outcome of investigated cases can submit a request for review, or what we also call an appeal. CRC members receive the full investigative file prior to an appeal. A request for review consists of 2 hearings: a case file review, which is an opportunity for the Citizen Review Committee to assess the completeness and readiness of the completed investigation for an appeal, and an appeal hearing. The committee decides whether the decision by the Police Bureau fact finder is supported by the evidence. Currently, the Citizen Review Committee may request an additional investigation at either stage. Right now, that's at the discretion of either Internal Affairs or IPR. So the Department of Justice Settlement Agreement resolved litigation between the United States Department of Justice and the City of Portland. This was a complaint filed back in 2012 from an investigation started in 2011 that the Portland Police Bureau had engaged in a pattern and practice of unnecessary or unreasonable force during interactions with people experiencing mental illness. The Citizen Review Committee is mentioned several places of the agreement. City Council approved the agreement in December 2012. The agreement was made effective by Judge Michael Simon on August 29th, 2014. So these are some of the changes that are part of the Department of Justice Settlement Agreement that involve the CRC. All administrative investigations of officer misconduct must occur within 180 days of receipt, which includes CRC appeals. Appeals to the Citizen Review Committee should be resolved within 21 days, which would be a big change compared to the way things work right now. CRC members would serve on a rotating basis on the Police Review Board. Expansion of the CRC from 9 to 11 members, and the CRC may make 1 request for additional investigation during the appeal process, and that request may include multiple points of inquiry. So the need for code change is based on the case file review and the appeal hearing. So paragraph 121 of the settlement agreement talks about the 180 days. The current appeal process includes a waiting period of around 90 days. Paragraph 121 also talks about the 21 days that the CRC would have to conduct an appeal. The current best case scenario is about 60 days. The time to file an appeal would be reduced from 30 days to 14 days. Proposed changes would allow the case file review and appeal hearing to occur on the same day if the CRC believed the investigation was complete. The proposed code change would require additional investigation by either IPR or IAA if CRC had voted to do so. That would not be at the discretion of either investigative entity.
Can I ask a question? What's the rationale for reducing the time to appeal from 30 to 14 days?
So the appeal period is included within the 180 days. So currently, only about 10% of our appellants or community members who file a complaint request an appeal. So as a way of compressing the timeline, we're making the proposed change that it would go to 14 days with a pretty expansive good cause clause.
And your view is that doesn't prevent people from having a reasonable time?
I don't think so. Just based on some of the research that we've done, it takes about 10 to 11 days for people to decide whether they want to file an appeal or not. So this slide talks about the appeals that we've had over the last 4 or 5 years. 2013 was a pretty active year. There were 5 appeals. The CRC historically challenges the Police Bureau's findings at least a third of the time, some years as much as 60%. We've had a relatively extensive public engagement process on this code change. It started in October 2014, where CRC members and IPR staff got together to come up with proposed code language that would meet the requirements of the Department of Justice Settlement Agreement, as well as respect the community members who have engaged the city's complaint process. Draft language was put together and was presented in front of the CRC in January of 2015. February 13th, we sent notification to the COCL council offices and the public that's on our notification list. We heard some feedback from some COCL members that wanted additional time, so we decided to pull this item and set it for today.
Which in retrospect may not have been the best of things.
You know, democracy is a beautiful thing.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah. So, do you have any questions on that?
Maybe later.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to add now or maybe later?
So, I believe there are 3 members of the community who follow these issues who have requested an opportunity to speak on this issue.
Okay, we'll let them speak, get you back up after that.
Yeah. We have Dan Handelman, Joe Walsh, Edith Gillis. We're calling public testimony for this item. Dan Handelman, Joe
Okay,
Walsh,
tell him he can testify now.
and Edith Gillis.
You can testify now, Mr. Walsh.
Dan Handelman.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am. And then Mr. Walsh can follow you, and Mr. Handelman after that. Okay, go ahead. Welcome.
I'll go last.
Okay,
Dan, you want to go?
Dan, go ahead.
Sure. Let me just hand in my testimony here. Mayor Hales and commissioners, by the way, I don't cross picket lines, and I'm not doing this to disrespect any of you or what you're doing. We came here to testify about this issue today, so I appreciate your devotion to the cause that you're here for. I just want to start by saying that. Portland Cop Watch extends thanks to the auditor. Oh, I also wanted to ask Mayor Hales if I might have an extra minute.
Sure.
Thank you. Portland Cop Watch extends thanks to the auditor and the independent police. I'm Dan Handelman with Portland Cop Watch. A little thrown, that's okay. We extend our thanks to the auditor and independent police review division for postponing the changes to the IPR ordinance from February until today. The delay gave a chance for members of the Community Oversight Advisory Board and others to ask questions, make suggestions, and come up with a much better product that you're considering. We still have concerns about some of the proposed language and the reluctance of IPR and council to make bolder changes that would give Portland a truly independent civilian review board. Some of today's changes are supposed to get the Citizen Review Committee appeals process down to 21 days as listed in the DOJ agreement, but the DOJ itself told CRC that if they need more time, that's acceptable. David Knight told CRC the 21-day timeline is just one line in a 77-page document, and the DOJ would not bring the city to court for a lack of compliance if they take 45 days, and I have posted video of that on our YouTube page. Examining the changes, here's what we find. The first one, the IPR is narrowing to 14 days the timeline for a person unsatisfied with the outcome of a complaint investigation to appeal the CRC. IPR's own analysis showed that people either file within a few days of receiving the disposition letter or wait till the end of the current 30-day period. The proposal from IPR allows the director to make exceptions citing language barriers and physical or cognitive issues as reasons to accept a late filing. We'd hope the director would be allowed to set a longer time frame more broadly, since many people need more than 14 days just to understand what the CRC is, find someone to assist them in filing their paperwork, and file the appeal. The next section, the ordinance now lumps the CRC's case file review and appeal hearing into one hearing. We'd strongly recommended that the words "a hearing consisting of" be removed from the revised ordinance, so it would read, "When the director receives and accepts a timely request for review, a case file review and appeal hearing shall be scheduled before the committee." Director Sevier appeared to have agreed to remove those 4 words at the April 21 community meeting. Instead, he added a new sentence that says, "The case file review shall take place prior to the appeal hearing, either on the same day or on an earlier date." This takes care of our concern that someone will call foul if CRC votes to delay the appeal, though our proposal was less wordy and less confusing. That same section now says the director will notify the CRC Executive Committee upon receipt of an appeal. This doesn't fully address our concern that under the old ordinance, the CRC chair was to help schedule the hearings and was going to be cut out of the new one completely. By limiting the contact of CRC to notification of the appeal and not mentioning scheduling, this could take away CRC's ability to schedule its own hearings. The most important changes proposed to the CRC under the DOJ agreement grants them the authority to order further investigation. IPR originally left out language from the agreement which says they will not be limited in their one opportunity to ask for, say, just one photograph or one follow-up interview. The ordinance now appropriately says the request for investigation may include multiple areas of inquiry. This is a very huge deal for the community that the CRC is going to have the power to tell the city we need more investigation. Finally, IPR added a new section which at first seemed unnecessary, but there's new language that I see that Commissioner Fritz apparently is proposing that says the CRC should decide when they're going to hold the appeal hearing instead of just ordering them to vote to hold the appeal hearing. So we approve of the new proposed language. That's very helpful. There will still be many instances where the CRC will not want to hold the appeal hearing on the same day as the case file review. This is how the system works now as a result of many years of trial and error and what has led to the separating of these two processes. We'd also suggested that IPR include a provision to explicitly allow CRC to recommend changes to the allegations as written. CRC has been able to do so a number of times, but has also been blocked from doing so because it seems to be up to whoever is interpreting the code. There are over a dozen other outstanding issues from the 2010 stakeholders group which need to be addressed. For instance, we would like to see Council finish the work you started over a year and a half ago to give IPR the power to compel officer testimony, as well as change CRC's deferential standard of review and give CRC the explicit ability to hear shootings and deaths appeals. Thank you for your time.
Questions? I've got some. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'd like to move the amendment so that others can testify. I'm glad that Mr. Handelman knew about it so that he was able to comment. The amendment is on 321-150 case file review, and it responds to Mr. Handelman's concern about not directing the committee on what to vote, but rather that they shall vote on when to hold an appeal hearing. So new section D would say, if the committee agrees no further investigation and consideration of the evidence appears warranted, the committee shall vote on when to hold an appeal hearing.
Okay.
I'll second it for discussion. Commissioner Fritz, is this a friendly amendment? Has the auditor determined this is a friendly amendment?
Yes, it was discussed with and worked out with Mr. Sevier. I also am interested in Mr. Handelman's other requested amendment to Section A to delete the words "a hearing consisting of," which I believe is consistent with the discussion that we've had, is that there may be 2 separate hearings or there may not be.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that one out, Dan. So what's the effect of, how does it function after you remove those 4 words?
Well, I think what it makes it clear that they're not going to have to be held at the same time. And what my concern is that it's probably not going to come from the citizen because citizens over the years have come to appreciate the way that the CRC has been holding their hearings more thoroughly, and they don't seem to mind how long it's taking. So I'm afraid that might come from the police side, that they're going to complain if CRC separates the appeal hearing and the case file review to 2 different days and say that they're in violation of the ordinance. And I understand the new sentence takes care of that, but it's just kind of confusing to say on the same day or an earlier date. It's very confusing temporally. It doesn't make sense in the way we speak English to each other on a daily basis. But I think if you just take out those 4 words, you're going to have the same effect, and it will remove that concern.
Shall be, okay, yeah, I see.
So I haven't checked that one out with Mr. Severo, the auditor. I'd like to hear their response, but that is something that I'd be interesting having on.
Well, you want to make the motion, or do you want to hear from Constantine first? We've got other folks that want to speak, so let's hold that aside and give you the chance to make that motion in a little while, but let's hear from the other citizens first, so please. Thank you, Dan. So welcome, go ahead.
My name is Joe Walsh. I represent Individuals for Justice. We concur with everything that Dan just said with Cop Watch. But we would also point out that unless the independent review board, or whatever name you want to put on it, if the organization does not have total independence, all of this is fluff. That board that looks at the police department's behavior must be totally independent. They must answer to no one except the citizens of this city. Not to you, not to the police, not to any committee. They have to be independent. That means you have to set up some funding for them. You have to set up independent investigators. You have to set up a funding and a place for them to meet outside of City Hall, away from you guys, as far as they can get away from the police department, and come down with realistic decisions, and then have subpoena power to punish. I know the people that have that right now is the chief of police and also the mayor. I would suggest you take that away from both of you.
I don't think we do, Joe.
Wait a minute,
think we
wait a
have
minute.
subpoena
Do
power.
not, please don't interrupt me because you break my chain of thought, and that's unfair. You want to comment later? I'm sure you have a comment.
Okay, I'll check.
All we're saying is whatever organization or institution or creation you come up with all of these deals and things that are coming out of the Department of Justice, unless the independent review board is totally independent, like they just did in Newark. My God, a Republican governor in Newark, New Jersey, they are totally independent. And here, they advise. That's it. These organizations advise the chief of police. They advise the mayor. They are useless. And it's been shown to you over and over and over again, and you have to have investigations that even Joe Walsh looks at and says, that is an independent investigation. And right now, you don't have anything close to that. And I'm losing my voice. And I'm sure you're happy. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, welcome. Good afternoon.
Hello, my name is Edith Gillis, and I am a citizen of Portland for over 35 years. And my deep concern is that we are defrauding our taxpayers and the voters and our public servants, and we're putting at risk the safety of our emergency personnel, et cetera, when we call something an independent police review when it's not independent. And what we need to do is to have it independent. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I'm talking about an independent investigator and prosecutor. I'm talking about separate budget, separate location, separate staff, securing the evidence, subpoena powers, enforcement, and that when someone, when a police officer or a private mercenary or other organization is in the jurisdiction of the city of Portland, or anyone wearing anything like riot gear in the city of Portland, that if there's any death, if there's any injury of a civilian, if there's any allegation of police brutality or corruption, that person is held for investigation, is held without pay, and is not allowed to be taking our money. Too much of our tax dollars are being spent on not only a few bad apples, but on a system that rewards corruption and bullying of police officers by police officers and withholding information that you need to do your job properly. I'm wanting to have proper training that we do not have yet, and I'm wanting to also make sure that each of these are held accountable to the human rights and civil liberties of not only the police, but of the civilians. And so I do not want us to be having one where we're just kind of holding hands and everyone's afraid of the cops, and the cops and the police union get away with controlling what happens, and that important evidence of crimes have been destroyed or lost, that witnesses have been intimidated, and that good cops are forced out of the program.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay. Questions? Thank you all. Others that are
Are
signed up?
Debbie Iona and Charles Johnson.
Good afternoon.
Hi. I'm Debbie Iona, representing the League of Women Voters of Portland. Although the League has significant concerns about shortening the timeline for appeals, in light of the DOJ settlement agreement, we support the IPR proposed changes. The League was one of the many organizations and individuals raising concerns about the shortened timeline for appeals. As longtime observers of the Citizen Review Committee, we have seen firsthand what a positive difference the case file review and the volunteer advocates and appeals process advisors have made in the quality of appeals and in the satisfaction expressed by appellants, whether or not their appeal is successful. They walk away feeling as if they've been heard and supported, and that the CRC had the time and information needed to make a thoughtful decision. The proposed code change allows the case file review and appeal hearing to continue to be scheduled separately when necessary. This should help ensure that the CRC can continue to give due consideration to each case. It was encouraging to hear a DOJ representative state at a recent CRC meeting that they will not hold the city to the 21-day limit because they have come to understand that indeed more time is needed if we are to give the appellant time to prepare and give the CRC the ability to ensure the investigation's adequate. Furthermore, the Volunteer National Lawyers Guild advocates and the IPR-provided appeals process advisors need time to meet with appellants to help them understand the process and present their cases effectively. The League does not want to see quality sacrificed in the interest of expediting the process. We are concerned that the 14-day period to file an appeal may prevent worthy appellants from coming forward. The IPR should track concerns raised by appellants and be willing to consider amending the ordinance if 14 days proves to be a significant barrier. Finally, the League truly appreciates the efforts IPR Director Sevier has made by meeting with interested community members to discuss the proposed changes. We were especially pleased to observe his willingness to make revisions to the proposal after hearing from the public, CRC, and COAB representatives and others. Thank you very much.
Debbie, I just have a question.
Yes.
You regularly spoil us by giving us written testimony. Do you have a handout today, or is that your testimony?
I just came away from 2 weeks in California and just kind of pulled this together a couple hours ago.
It was very clear, but I just want to make sure we weren't missing.
No, sorry. I just, sometimes you just have limits.
Give you a pass today.
Thanks a lot.
Given that you're a volunteer, I think you can be excused for not always having written testimony.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and I appreciate Director Constantine Sevier's patience as some of my friends and neighbors expressed their extreme concern with wasteful city policy. I'm glad to see we're trying to make the CRC appeal process more friendly to our citizens and more efficient so that we can get quality police oversight. I do think that Mr. Handelman addressed the minutia of these changes adequately, but when we look in the PDF, we see that Director Sevier even found a group called the Portland Opportunities Industrialization Center with which to, among other groups, to discuss these changes. And I really think that between Mr. Sevier and the Auditor General, there needs to be an honest, comprehensive report, perhaps facilitated by the LWV, the League of Women Voters, that really states what the people think about police accountability in Portland and what changes from the grassroots, not inside the structure of the COAB or the settlement agreement or any of those things, but I think there are many excluded and minimized voices who have thoughtful things to contribute about what we could really do to make people believe that we're moving towards stronger accountability and punishment for police misconduct. That's really the words we should be saying, is the police and criminal justice is mostly a punitive system here, and we really need to be talking about punishment for police wrongdoing. We know the wrongdoing happens and the punishment doesn't happen. Paid vacations happen, but and I'm hoping that Mr. Handelman will incorporate that in some of his Cop Watch reporting. And I think it's also a good thing for you to look for, Mayor. How many hours of more than $15 an hour police time is wasted because police engage in misconduct, get sidelined for vacations, get paid after wrongdoing? And it's unfortunate that we can't address this issue strictly as a human rights and civil rights issue, that we have to remember that part of the reason you guys are even in motion is because this United States of America Department of Justice had to investigate you, found a pattern of wrongdoing, and the other reason is dollars. The city has cops that are not good cops, that do deliberately wrong things, get found liable in civil trials, and taxpayer dollars has to go to the injured parties. Our goal should be zero, not just zero spending on that kind of thing, but zero injury to our fellow citizens and neighbors in Portland. So I hope that along with these minutia that were well addressed by Mr. Handelman, these changes, that we won't lose. The biggest focus is to bad cops out, do something about the crazy arbitration system that lets them come back, and a target of zero police misconduct and zero payouts. Thank you.
Thanks. And just glad you raised the question about Portland Opportunities Industrialization Center. It's got probably the strangest name of any nonprofit in the city. It's actually a nonprofit, as you may know. I'd urge you to take a look at the website if you haven't seen what they do, but they actually focus on at-risk use. They provide outreach to gang members and potential gang members. They run the Rosemary Anderson High School, and one of the reasons why I think it's really excellent that the auditor consulted POIC about the police bureau is that they had to deal with a massive police response there in December of last year when 3 of their students were shot on the sidewalk outside of the school, including one of my interns from my office. So they've had a lot of experience with the police bureau, sort of both sides of the issue, and although their name is really strange, they're so in contact with the community that's most at risk in terms of the relationship with the police bureau. So I'm glad you brought them up.
And I appreciate you clarifying that, because I think many people would rather see the documentation include interaction with Rosemary Anderson School staff and students.
Well, they do other things. They have gang outreach workers, and they do job training for particularly kids of color.
And thanks for holding your remarks till I was finished. Thanks.
Okay, others?
That's all who signed up.
So I think it would be good to get the auditor and Mr. Sevier back up. Then also to take up the question of the amendment that you were posing, Commissioner Fritz. So I guess first question I would have is your response to some of the criticisms or constructive criticisms and suggestions that Mr. Handelman made, and then also this other potential amendment that's been mentioned.
So on, I guess I'll take the amendment first. On 321-150 on subparagraph A, I have no objection to removing a hearing consisting of. That's something that came up during the public feedback period, and that was something I committed to removing and just kind of made it into this draft. So I don't think it makes a huge substantive difference in, because hearings can be multiple days, as you folks are well aware of. But I think if there's any possible impediment to members of the public accessing this or causing confusion among community members, particularly volunteers, I am more than willing to do that.
Okay,
Great.
good.
Thank you.
Auditor Calero, any other comments that you'd like to make at this
Yeah,
point?
the one comment that I would like to make is the fear that if IPR is doing the scheduling for the hearings, that somehow we're going to cut the CRC out. We want those hearings to go forward. We are focused on people who walk in and file complaints and investigating those complaints, and so it is in our best interest, it's in the civilian oversight system's best interest that we are coordinating closely with the volunteers of the Citizen Review Committee. And so I don't interpret the language of this text in a way that construes any sort of authority to the Independent Police Review Division that was raised during the public testimony.
Okay.
And just one other thing, the appeal process, IPR, CRC, it doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to the auditor. This is a system that's been built over the last 20 years. It belongs to all of us. And one of the commitments that this auditor and our office has made, particularly during this particular code change process, is trying to make it as open as possible, of talking to anybody and everybody. And we've gotten some really good feedback that we're able to incorporate in this. And it's been a learning experience for us as well. And it's been so positive, the response that we've gotten from community members is that from the beginning of starting this month, the rest of the summer, we're going to try to do IPR info session talking about police accountability issues. During the feedback that we heard from community members, a lot of people were talking about the future and wanting to engage in proactive change, of not waiting for a Baltimore or Ferguson or whatever to happen here, but for us to be ahead of the curve, because we are Portland and we are a progressive society, I believe. So May 27th is going to be the first one, and we're going to have that in Portland Building. June's is going to be at the Charles Jordan Center up in North Portland, and July and August, and we're going to try to have different themes, and it's not going to be me with my awesome PowerPoint. It's just going to be us sitting around as equals. I think staff has a role to participate, but I think this is really an opportunity for members of the public to participate and find out what we're actually doing right now, and if there are gaps, and if there are things that we can do better, that we learn from members of the public, and if there is something that needs to be legislated or something like that put together. I really like Mr. Johnson's point of putting together some sort of report or something like at the end of the summer, of saying, okay, this is what we heard from members of the public, and providing that to the public at large.
Thank you. So then I move the requested amendment to Section A to delete the words "a hearing consisted of" from the first sentence.
Second.
Okay, so further discussion on including that amendment, then a roll call on including that second amendment.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Novick.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Hales.
Aye. And did we act on the first amendment, or just put it on the table? So let's act on the first one as well, please.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Novick.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Hales.
Aye. Okay. Any further council discussion on this item? And I'm just looking back to see, it is not an emergency ordinance, right?
No, it is not.
Not an emergency ordinance?
Since it's not, I would like to make a comment. First of all, it was an awesome PowerPoint that you just presented, and it's fortunate that you had that written work. Obviously, you had already briefed all the council offices ahead of time, so it wasn't any of it was news to us, but because you had the PowerPoint, people at home were able to read what was up on the screen, even though they may not have been able to hear what you said. Second, I've been involved in several independent police review code changes over my 6 and a bit years on the council, and often the amount of anger that's expressed at these hearings has been directed at you and your staff. Although I was really disheartened that people could not hear your presentation. I am glad that this time there's so much more consensus, that you worked with the community, that with our new auditor in charge, there's a renewed confidence in the independence of the process. And so I really commend you that to have folks, Mr. Handelman and Ms. Iona, coming to say that although they're still concerned about the timeline, they support what you've done is a tremendous achievement. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you both. Thank you. So this will come back for second reading next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move into the final item this afternoon, which is 487.
Support entering the project development phase of the Powell Division Transit and Development Project, an authorized letter to Metro stating commitment to provide transportation system development charge funds towards the transit project.
Commissioner Novick.
Thank you, Mayor and colleagues. I'd like to first thank Metro for the Community Planning and Development Grant that funded city staff participation in the planning process for this Powell Division Transit and Development Project. I also want to thank the following community members who provided valuable direction to the project's planning process. Judith Mowry of the Office of Equity and Human Rights, Kem Marks and Lori Boyson of the Division Midway Alliance, Rahi Reddy of Apano in the Jade District, Vivian Satterfield of Opal Environmental Justice, David Wong of Apano, and Dr. Lisa Bates of Portland State University. This is largely a transit project, but fortunately, when we do this transit project, we will also improve safety along Inner Powell and Outer Division. We were reminded again this week of the safety issues on Powell with the tragic crash involving the bicyclist at 26th and Powell. We've long known that crossing and safety improvements along Powell Boulevard could significantly improve the safety for everyone sharing the road, whether you're driving, walking, or biking. And Director Treat and I are committed to reaching our Vision Zero goals to move towards zero traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries. The need for safer and faster access to transit and faster, more reliable transit service, especially to jobs and school, is particularly prevalent in the Inner Powell Outer Division corridor. The corridor now includes some of the highest ridership in the entire TriMet system. The number 4 bus in Division is over 9,000 trips a day. The number 9 bus in Powell is over 8,700 trips per day. Preliminary estimates indicate that the possible bus rapid transit line along Powell Division might have average weekly day line riders of between 24 and 28,000 people, which would generate, I mean, some of those would be shifted from existing lines, but the preliminary estimates indicate that in the neighborhood of 6,000 new average trips would be added to the TriMet system. This project would complement the hoped-for implementation of the Outer Powell Conceptual Design Plan and the safety improvements involved there, our efforts to improve safety on 122nd, and hopefully TriMet will also add frequent service. These are all priority projects identified in the East Portland in Motion 5-year strategy and the East Portland Action Plan. Supporting the Powell Division Transit Development Project also reinforces elements of our comprehensive plan update. We are pleased that PBOT actually has some SDC funds that we're prepared to commit towards this project. Our SDC funds will leverage federal and regional funds towards improving transit access to educational employment opportunities, among other things, at PCC, PSU, OHSU, and Mount Hood Community College. Throughout the planning process, the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability has been developing a land use vision and action plan to help guide and support future development and community building activities along the corridor. We want to be sure that this project actually serves existing members of the community and doesn't simply lead to gentrification. We, of course, very much hope that the legislature will give us some new tools to prevent gentrification. We also are confident that community benefits agreements, local hiring, and hiring of minority and women-owned contracting companies during this actual project will be of great value to the community. Because the steering committee includes community partners and citizen representatives, displacement mitigation tools like these have been prioritized throughout the planning process, strengthening the relationships with community members along the corridor. I'll now ask Leah Treat, Director of the Bureau of Transportation, to share more details on this project.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Again, I am Leah Treat, the Director of the Portland Bureau of Transportation. Yeah, go ahead. So I'm pleased today to be bringing to you the Powell Division Transit and Development Project. It's a high-capacity transit project on the Powell Division corridor, and it will connect downtown Portland to Gresham. And so we're here today to ask for your support to advance the project from the planning phase into its next phase of project development. I have the honor of representing the City of Portland on the steering committee alongside our agency partners, elected officials, and community partners. Although Commissioner Novick is our official representative appointed by the mayor, I have been participating on his behalf. Planning for the project has been a collaborative effort involving the Bureau of Transportation, the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, Metro, TriMet, ODOT, Multnomah County, and the City of Gresham. And this partnership is a reflection of the multi-jurisdictional nature of the Powell Division project corridor, and it includes street segments belonging to Portland, Gresham, Multnomah County, and the state of Oregon. Metro is leading the region's effort to plan the project, and TriMet is leading the design process. TriMet would also operate the new service. Given their significant roles, we have invited Brian Monberg, Metro's planning project manager, and Alan Lato, TriMet's director of planning and policy, to share more of the details of the project with you today. The Powell Division project includes 3 of the city's high crash corridors at Powell, 82nd, and Division. And these streets have been experience high demand from pedestrians and cyclists and people accessing transit. So this project presents a really good opportunity for us to move forward on our Vision Zero goals and improve safety along these high crash corridors. The high capacity transit project also ties into our Portland Progress goals and is identified as connecting Portlanders to economic opportunities. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian to share more about the project.
Good afternoon. We're very pleased to give you an update on the project. This project corridor does connect downtown Portland to southeast Portland, East Portland, the city of Gresham, with a vision to connect downtown to Mount Hood Community College near the eastern boundary of our region. And there's a lot of opportunity to connect a number of major destinations in the corridor. Just to highlight why we are moving forward with this project, this was identified as one of 2 priority corridors out of the Regional Transportation Plan, including Southwest Corridor and the Powell Division Corridor, those highlighted in green from the Regional High Capacity Transit Plan. And as we've talked about, this is a corridor where a lot of people are riding transit every single day. There's a lot of line ridership, a lot of growth on the 4 and the 9, and a real opportunity to connect to existing investments in the orange line, the green line, and the blue line. And just as an example of that, right in the middle of the corridor at the intersection of 82nd and Division, there's over 18,000 on-offs a week at that site, which, to put in context, is enough people to nearly fill up the Timbers soccer stadium. A lot of activity and a lot of people engaging in this project and engaging transit in our corridor. So when we're working on the transit project, we're very focused on making sure that we build a project that can save time for people riding it, providing for a comfortable and safe trip, and importantly, connecting the places we care about. As we've discussed, we've been really focused on developing the economic development strategy around this site, leveraging so much work the City of Portland has already put in places like the Portland-Milwaukee line, Foster-Powell, the Jade District, and East Portland. And as we've talked about, there's been an emerging theme for the education corridor, recognizing that this project can leverage investments in Portland State, Oregon Health Sciences University, with the significant investment Portland Community College has put at 82nd and Division and Mount Hood Community College campus. The 2 largest high schools in the state of Oregon are in our corridor at David Douglas and Reynolds High School, and several other high schools. There's a lot of students transferring between all of these educational institutions. And we've also been working closely with the efforts that Portland Development Commission and the City of Portland have had around the Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative, and in particular the Jade District and Division Midway. And when we put those together with this emerging action plan, this project has really been focused on supporting the uniqueness of the communities along the corridor, providing amenities that really improve the neighborhood, and importantly, a real focus on supporting equitable development. So just to briefly summarize the project, this is twofold, both a transit and development project. In this planning phase, we've been focused on developing a vision around the route and the stations and supporting projects for the transit. And the City of Portland has been leading the effort in partnership with the City of Gresham for a development strategy, and we've been working together to define a series of actions and projects that can really help support the areas we'd like to see change and the areas the community would like to see remain stable. And with that, we've really focused on the notion that everything is done in partnership. Metro's been leading the steering committee where the community and agency have been coming together to identify shared issues, finding common ground, and with that agreement, we look to pursue and collaborate on funding. And that agreement and that effort working together in partnership really has provided a lot of value and opportunity to bring needed investments in the corridor. And as an example of that, we've been holding a lot of community-based workshops in the corridor over the last year and a half, and that has included both geographically specific as well as culturally and multilingual engagement, also working closely with high school students in the corridor and local businesses. We've also had a focus in a series of workshop discussions around equitable development. Our website and our work with the community has developed an equitable development resource kit, and the emerging action plan the city has been developing has focused on housing, economic development, and real projects and policies that can support the communities in conjunction with the transit investment. And also just want to acknowledge the online efforts and what we learned from the comprehensive plan and the online map app that was so successful. We've had a similar effort on this project. Just this spring, we had over 1,500 comments online and a lot of engagement online as well as in person. As an example of that, I just wanted to share a quote from one of the community members we've engaged who said, "Thank you for having me speak for our Tongan community at the steering committee and very much appreciate the ink time. I will share with my sewing class today and the word of mouth will spread faster than the high-speed internet at Metro. The Tongan community will know we've been heard." And Kolini did speak with our steering committee in March, and we've engaged many groups along the corridor to hear where they would like to see the investments. And so what that has meant is our steering committee has partnered community and business organizations. The steering committee is a little unique. We have 22 members, and we've taken a triple bottom line approach. So in addition to elected officials and the neighborhood communities, we've had representatives of social, environmental, and economic interests on the corridor. It's been a real delight to work with a very broad group to really build a vision for the corridor. We developed goals around transportation, well-being, equity, and efficiency. Really important to really focus on how this can really support the community and equity goals. And where we are with the project is we have developed a vision for a new bus rapid transit project that would run on Inner Powell in Portland, connecting to Division, to Gresham, and to Mount Hood Community College. We're still working through some planning decisions about the actual route. There's been a strong interest on 82nd as being the route, but we're doing some additional design work on that, and also refining some choices in Gresham. So finally, just want to highlight some of the collaboration. One has been partnership with the philanthropic community and been doing a grant based on art and placemaking along the corridor, partnering with the Jade and Division Midway District. Been also working very closely with the Jade District. Their visioning process identified over the last year 4 key opportunities around traffic improvements, 82nd and Division, and a community space and green space. We're excited to say that that led to a Metro Transit-oriented development purchase for the former furniture store site right at 82nd and Division, right next to Portland Community College. And what that's led to is a partnership with Apano to have that as a multicultural space as we've worked together to define a vision for future housing on the site. And for those of you who attended the event last week to kick off this site, it was a really exciting event with a lot of community participation. It's been a great partnership to look at those kinds of investments parallel to the transit investment. And just want to acknowledge there's a continued interest to actually site the station on the campus of Mount Hood Community College, which is significant. Their district does encompass much of East Portland and many students. So we've had an exciting partnership with the college, and we're actually at the board tonight to discuss the project with them. So that's a brief overview, and I want to transition to Alan Lado, who's going to talk a little bit more about the project.
Thanks, Brian. We're very excited about the opportunity to develop this project. As you've heard, there are a number of transit riders in this corridor, of course, but it's a real opportunity to bring what is effectively a new mode to the region to improve even more so that experience for existing riders and to attract new riders in this corridor and to support the aspirations of the communities along the way, both in Portland and in the city of Gresham. It's a real opportunity to bring that improvement in a way that is brings it in a relatively quick manner and really considers all of the needs and aspirations that can go into this kind of a project to improve transit in this set of the corridor. What I'm going to do here is talk just a little bit more about nuts and bolts as well. And Brian, if you could go to the next slide there. In terms of timing, you've heard already that we've spent several years understanding and learning as much as we can, connecting with people in the community and understanding what the interests are and what the needs are to try to get to the big picture idea of what this improvement should be. Then what we do is we start to move into this next stage of project development and beyond that brings that from a conceptual idea and the promise to how we actually deliver that promise and ultimately go into construction and opening the service and running it for the very long term. There will be lots more to work on for that, but for right now, maybe if you go to the next one. This next step is what FTA calls project development. And the term isn't as important as just understanding that it's taking what's a conceptual idea and putting a little bit more shape to it so that we can do that important analysis of the benefits and the potential impacts and how to mitigate some of those impacts as part of the project. And that's what you see, the ability for us to work on the preliminary engineering, planning for the funding for the ultimate construction of the project, and on the environmental work. All of this is to essentially get into the queue, the pipeline for FTA to be able to work with our federal partners to have them help us do this project. It's part of what's called Small Starts program, which has certain limits to it, but also has a lot of advantages in terms of being a simpler, faster, and easier to implement kind of program than what we had to do, for instance, the Orange Line that's going to be opening up in September. It allows us to bring the benefits this decade, hopefully, rather than a decade from now. And I know you've heard some about what bus rapid transit is, but just as a reminder for you and for those who are listening, it's a whole range of improvements, most of which we have bits and pieces of around the region. So exclusive bus lanes like we have in downtown are leading to some of the bridges. Specialized vehicles, though, and larger stations, great information at those stations, connections to different places and different lines throughout the corridor, and the ability to really do something special with this corridor that we haven't done anywhere else in the region. We also have the great opportunity, unfortunately, we're not first with this one, but we have the opportunity to learn from some of the great successes and mistakes that have happened in other parts of the country. So learning from a Cleveland Health Line or a Los Angeles Orange Line and other places that really understand now what you can do with bus rapid transit and how to make it work as well as possible. And I also want to emphasize that we have a real opportunity. We've set it up right this time where we're talking about the corridor, the capital improvements to the corridor and the service to this one Powell Division corridor at the same time that we're talking about the vision for the transit network as a whole. So it's not just one line, it's how it connects in with the entire system so that people can make those important connections to educational opportunities, job opportunities, daily needs, healthcare, all of the things that people need on a day-by-day and week-by-week basis, and not just travel in a single corridor, but travel throughout East Portland, East County, the rest of the region. And as part of that, to make sure that we're doing that, we've been doing what we call the service enhancement plans or the future of transit work to develop the vision for what that future network looks like and how it connects with this project. And so you can see a few of the things that we've been hearing on the east side, requests for more coverage, especially for north-south service in areas that we don't have, either improvements or new lines, service more often earlier and later than we do today, connecting with employment areas, enhancing access to education, healthy food and services that are places in East Portland but are not convenient to every corridor. And of course, part of this project and partnerships throughout the region to try to improve access to transit in a safe and responsible way.
All right, thank you, Brian and Alan. We should talk a little bit about the City of Portland's funding for the project. PBOT is able to help advance the project into project development with a financial contribution from our SDC funds. We're estimating spending roughly $2 million in SDCs toward project development, and those funds would count towards the region's match of a future federal small starts grant of perhaps $75 million. It'll be a great opportunity for us to leverage our SDC funds towards the project, and additional SDC funds are available for the project should it continue to advance into final design and construction. You want to move? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I don't know if you guys had that on your screen or not, but there's a
Yep,
snapshot of the, sorry about that.
We've got it.
Um,
Is it out there too?
Yeah, what's the next slide? You want me to leave the financials up for you for a little bit?
Yeah,
Are you-
please.
Okay, you can leave them back while I talk. So we've already funded capital investments in the corridor. PBOT, ODOT, and TriMet all have safety and ped bike access projects that are currently funded in the corridor. And there's over $47 million allocated in East Portland alone to the EPIM, East Portland in Motion Plan, implementation by the city and other agencies between 2012 and 2018. Portland and Gresham are developing land use visions and action plans to complement the BRT project. Portland's action plan will focus on coordinating internally to better promote affordable housing and housing preservation and economic development. The Bureau of Planning and Sustainability is working with the Portland Housing Bureau and the Portland Development Commission to find opportunities for joint or coordinated actions. And BPS will have a proposed draft this summer with review time before it goes to the PSC and ultimately the City Council in the fall. We can move ahead. Is that okay on the slides?
Yes,
That's just, you've already seen that one if you want to go to the last one. So PBOT supports the project, and we're very happy with the direction that it is headed, and we are very supportive of the region's effort to move into project development with the FTA. And those concludes our remarks, and we're happy to take questions from the council.
So actually, oops, put that back up if you would. I was going to ask you a question about that. And that is in the portion between I-205 and Cesar Chavez there, you show still two alternative routes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because you're still at that penultimate phase before you select the locally preferred alternative? You're still weighing both of those options about whether it's what?
It's
60th or 82nd?
It's 82nd and 50 and 52nd. And 82nd really rose to the top for people in their preferred route, but we're also concerned about timing. Timing and moving the, being able to move the bus through quickly on a BRT route. And I think there are possible issues on 82nd and timing, if I remember correctly from the
As you know, the intersections of 82nd Powell and 82nd Division are exceptionally challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And so while there's certainly a lot of support for 82nd, we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we can travel through there and make the connections that people expect in a timely manner.
What's the alternative?
Right now, what you see on there is either 50th or 52nd.
But then doesn't that take you to the high cross corridor on Division? That seems like that's even more challenging than 82nd.
They both have real issues to work through, which is why we haven't quite settled on a single way to approach it. The point of project development is once you have the mode and the general alignment is to follow up with those details so that we all collectively agree that, yes, this, whatever it is the best way to move forward in terms of the benefit of the project and the benefit of the other needs around the project.
Have you looked at, instead of turning on 82nd, turning on 102nd or 122nd?
The real pearl here, if we think about what we're trying to connect to, is PCC Southeast, which is at 82nd and Division, and the Jade District, which is very interested in having the access at 82nd.
From somebody without a technical background, it seems like that even with the challenges at the intersections with Division and Powell, that 82nd is going to be more feasible than Division.
I certainly would not tell you that's not true. We just haven't gotten to a consensus around the table that that's exactly what we need to do.
And how is that decision made?
We go to the steering committee, which is made up as Brian described it, and describe the technical issues and kind of how that feeds in with the aspirations of the project itself, and then collectively make that decision.
And who makes that decision?
The steering committee makes a recommendation.
Does the council sign off on that?
Formally, I think, not at each stage, though, correct me if I'm wrong, Leah.
The
but-
LPA stage we do, right?
Right, when we get to the LPA, which kind of, sorry, locally preferred alternative, which brings all of those into one package and describes what the project ought to be, then yes, you do take a formal
So there'll
vote
be a
on it.
public hearing at that point.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
But actually, I'm glad you're asking those questions, Commissioner Fritz. As I think you may have been here, I certainly was in a previous service through this phase of the process, and it's really important that the project team, obviously they hear from Commissioner Novick frequently, and it's really important that they hear from the whole council. So that's why this kind of a check-in is really important, so that they understand where we corporately are coming from. And I have some notes I want to make sure I get some things into the record for you as well, but I think it's sort of, this is a chance to capture the sense of the council about some of these issues that might affect your decision-making, rather than have you make a decision that we don't like and have to try to, go backwards. So it's really important that we have this kind of open discussion now.
Yeah, having been to PCC on 82nd down Division, I would find it difficult to figure out how to have rapid bus service down the narrower lanes past Franklin High School, along some of the intersections and plus with all the parking in the apartments that are being built on that. My recommendation is that you strongly look at the 82nd alternative.
Thank you.
So, yeah, let me make some comments as well. And I know we're going to take public testimony, but, and this is something I think the whole council ought to provide some reinforcement to Commissioner Novick and to the project team on. I believe it remains the philosophy and the policy of the Portland City Council, present company included, that when it comes to a set of decisions like this, that the pedestrian and the transit rider are the first-class passenger and in the system. We accommodate bicycles, and that transit effectiveness trumps traffic operations. It was true before, true now. I hope it's always true. So when it comes right down to the choices of, is this a better transit project that will allow more people to get to where they want to go on time, to get to their child's daycare or get to work or and traffic moves, single occupancy automobile traffic moves a little more slowly. I believe it's still our corporate philosophy as a city that that's the right choice. And I think we've demonstrated that recently in the decisions about the Foster Streetscape Plan, which is a traffic calming, humanizing project for what it will be like at street level on Foster. And so that would perhaps mean that things like, if we have to jurisdictionally transfer portions of 82nd to the city in order to get to the design that you think is best, I suspect not just the commissioner in charge of transportation, but others on the council would be willing to take up the question of maybe just partial jurisdictional transfer of portions of 82nd in order to get the transit project that you believe would be the best one. So again, it's at the risk of maybe stating the obvious. Those aren't original thoughts in this room. But I think it's really important that if that is still the approach we want you to take, that we speak clearly about that. And then again, these are big investments. They're around for a really long time. They shape the growth of the city. And so we really want to get it right. Another set of instructions I want to make sure that we express, and it's actually not so much to you as to ourselves. In my opinion, on the last transit project, the city of Portland was slow to get our piece of the work done. That is, we're about to open a $1 billion light rail line where we still have station areas zoned industrial. We are working on our comp plan now. It's really important, I believe, that we synchronize the work on the comp plan with the work on this transit project. So in soccer terms, we run to where the ball is going, and have the land use pattern in place, at least as a as a parentheses on the land use plan, pending approval of the project, that once the project is funded, then this zoning is in effect, not that zoning anymore, so that we don't have strip mall zoning on walkable urbanism, transit. So I think all those things, again, sort of stating the obvious, but I believe, and it's a good chance for all of us to weigh in on those things, that that's the set of instructions that Commissioner Novick is expressing from not just himself, but from all of us.
Those are very helpful reminders. Thank you.
Mayor, actually, before we get to public testimony, we have a number of illustrious steering committee members here who are in fact so illustrious, and I'm sure that Commissioner Fritz will agree that there's no way that the City Council will ever disagree with any recommendation they might make. And so, with your permission, I'd like to call up Metro Councilor Bob Stacy, Rahi Reddy, a Pono Board member, J District Steering Committee member and resident along the corridor, and Trell Anderson, Director of Community Development and Housing at Catholic Charities, to kick us off.
Great. Good afternoon. Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, first of all, I'm Bob Stacy, Metro Councilor. I'm the co-chair of the steering committee along with my colleague Shirley Craddock, who represents the eastern part of this corridor. I'm going to depart from my prepared remarks to thank each of you, members of the council who just spoke, and to thank Commissioner Saltzman as well. You're giving great direction, and I saw Mr. Lato from TriMet writing it down. I saw Director Treat writing it down, and I'll remind Brian Monberg from our staff to make notes as well. I have to say, I heartily concur with the observations the mayor made about priority for transit, pedestrians, and transit riders, about Commissioner Fritz's observation, essentially, that this entire corridor alignment is a high crash corridor, is replete with high crash locations. And Commissioner Novick for grounding this discussion in a reminder about Sunday night's terrible accident, a terrible crash that once again demonstrates the real danger of the current design and operation of these very large traffic facilities. As the Commissioner said, Commissioner Novick said, this is a great transportation project and a great opportunity to grow the 17,000 riders in this corridor now with thousands more, with better, more efficient, speedier, safer traffic or transit. It's also an opportunity to make those streets safer for the people riding and accessing transit and just plain crossing the street or traveling along it. In addition to a great transit project, we have a great steering committee. You know, TriMet has a standard operating procedure, has in the past, or TriMet Metro, the partners in these corridor projects, of identifying the usual governmental suspects, bringing them together, myself included, and making decisions about how to allocate resources. This time, we involved the community that we're trying to represent. We all believe that we do our best to represent the views and wishes of the community, but here we made sure, as you can see by some of my colleagues at the table and others who are in the audience, that we've engaged the educational institutions. You'll hear from President Howard of the Southeast Campus of PCC, the Mount Hood Community College is represented on our board, or on our steering committee, the Division Midway and J District, NPI districts are represented, as is Southeast Uplift, East Portland Neighbors, as is East Portland Action Plan, OPAL, Public Health and Active Transportation Advocates, and transit-dependent users of the transportation system, all on our steering committee, all helping us discern what this community that will be served by a great transit project needs. And it was those community members who raised an issue that wasn't on our starting agenda, equity and displacement avoidance, to the top line of what we hope to accomplish in this project. We want economic development and prosperity in this corridor. We also want and intend to have strategies to avoid involuntary displacement of businesses and current residents as a result of that growth and opportunity. We have a real intergovernmental partnership here, and Brian Monberg and your Director of Transportation, Ms. Treat, have already spoken to many of the aspects of that, the mutual funding strategies. I'm really proud of the effort our transit-oriented development team played in securing this 100% corner on Division and 82nd, which I hope also is the alignment we select, although I'm studiously neutral on the subject as co-chair. We got that furniture building, Discount Furniture. It's a great, lively place overnight, thanks to Apano, its current tenant. And we've used planning grant resources to make sure that your very talented planning and transportation staff, as well as Gresham's, are assisting at an even higher level in this work. So, thanks to that work by all these staff and the steering committee, we're on target to move into this phase of project design and deliver the region's first high-capacity bus rapid transit service by the fall of 2020. That's my goal. It's a little more than 5 years away. It's entirely achievable if we keep our sights on it. So I encourage respectfully the council to move forward with Metro, TriMet, Gresham, and ODOT into that design phase by taking the actions requested by your Transportation Commissioner today. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Novick, for your invitation to speak. And good afternoon, Mayor Hales, and Commissioner Fritz, Commissioner Saltzman. My name is Rahi Reddy. I live in the Powell Division Transit project area, and I'm also here to, and I'm also a member of the Jade District Community Project and with Apano, as well as serving on the Powell Division Steering Committee. I'm here to express my support for the city's endorsement of the Powell Division Transit and Development Project. I'm also here to emphasize to you just how important it is that we ensure that low-income communities, and especially families of color, benefit from the public dollars invested in this effort. And to urge you to continue to engage these impacted communities in the planning and implementation phases of the project as well. As you very well know, and please, you all know this, but bear with me, East Portland is home to over 35% of the city's population, with a concentration of residents of color, many of whom who are immigrants. You also know it's home to 37% of our K-12 youth and a third of its elderly population, so a truly multi-generational region. And almost 41% of these families in our corridor live on less than $42,000 a year for a family of 4. In the Jade District alone, we consider, you know, I'm biased, but we consider the Jade the heart of this project, the heart of the corridor, may be shown on the map as well. But just in, you know, these families in the heart of this corridor, for our community, 50% of our families earn less than $42,000 a year for a family of 4. A third of our children and 40% of our seniors live in poverty. And I say this just, we all know these statistics, but it's important to reemphasize them in the context of this project and the impacts that it'll have. According to the Oregon Office of Economic Analysis, East Portland is also home to the highest concentration of low-wage workers in the region. These are workers who work in food service, custodial, landscape, and low-wage healthcare. So it's no surprise to you that we see this project not just as a standalone effort to improve bus service, which is important and critical, but also as an opportunity to use our tax dollars to leverage smart community economic development that can uplift the most vulnerable workers in Portland. And with such a high concentration of youth in this region, really an opportunity to positively engage today Portland's future workforce. So good economic development to us and to you as city leaders, as you've said before in other instances, means investing dollars to not only make improvements to our streets, but to make sure that the workers who are improving those streets are from the community, are in union and in careers, are in unions and in careers that future careers that started with the Powell Division work but last a lifetime. So those investments go beyond just the work that they do on the Powell Division project. So there's clear equity strategies that we believe can instill this type of comprehensive equitable development. Community benefit agreements have been raised earlier today. So community benefit agreements on all work done in the corridor with strong local hire policy that encourages hiring of community workers into union construction careers and a robust recruitment of minority contractors. Transit project dollars should also be used to support local training programs. Great partnership with PCC Southeast, among other community colleges in our district, to help our youth enter into transit careers, maybe future transit planners, but really looking at transit jobs that are family-sustaining jobs. And the other piece we really think is important to continue the investment that you all are making is permanent jobs created in the transit corridor, including those that service transit stations, so maintenance, custodial workers, adjacent retail and landscaping work that happens for the permanent stations should be quality union or family wage jobs. And ultimately, we need to have a place in this conversation to really build community stabilization. We all know what are some of the unintended consequences of transit development, kind of referred to before as some of the mistakes other places have made. But we really need to ensure we have policies that help renters and low-income homeowners to stay in their homes. And one of the strategies that we would love, and I want to say thank you to Metro and Councilor Stacy for raising this issue of a community advisory team. I served on this committee, and it really makes a difference when you have a diversity of stakeholders that are weighing in on these decisions. And so we urge you to continue a citizens advisory committee beyond this closing of this, beyond the end of our kind of term here, that includes residents and businesses and stakeholder organizations located along the alignment as well. And I just want to share with you this idea of improvements for the communities that live there. It was a big topic of conversation for us at the steering committee. So last summer, as a part of my Apano Jade work, I knocked on doors and talked to residents in the Jade District along 84th Avenue. And I met a young man. He's 19 years old. He grew up in the district. He was at the time in community college, hoping to work, build a career eventually after he graduates in the IT sector. And he coaches his little brother and other community kids in a soccer team and soccer basically volunteers. There's no program there, but he really loves living in this community, and he is living in his family home, the home he grew up in with his mom, his dad, siblings, grandparents. And I talked to him about the Jade work, and I talked to him about the Powell Division upgrade and how exciting it was. And he wants safe streets. He wants better lighting. He wants his little brother to be able to walk to Harrison Park School safely every day. But he also really wants to keep his family home. And he said to me that he worried that having all of these basic improvements means being unable to afford to stay in his home. Now, if we can't assure him that he deserves all of those things that families on the west side of 82nd have, safe streets, lighting, kids walking to school, my kid one of them, without losing everything, then I don't know what we're doing this for. So we want smart future workers like him to continue to invest in his neighborhood, be able to see his family prosper without the worry of being pushed out. I know that's the kind of Portland I want to live in. So thank you, Commissioner Novick, and Mayor Hales and Director Treat for your leadership in making this project a true win for communities. I look forward to further investment of your time, your ideas, and Portland's resources to ensure community members continue to give voice and direction on this project. What a great model. We could be on that map as a great model for other cities in the rest of the country. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Trell?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Trell Anderson. I'm here to support the resolution to enter into the project development phase of the Powell Division Transit and Development Project. I live in the corridor. My kids attend school in the corridor. I'm a bike rider and transit user in the corridor. And I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development at Catholic Charities. and I'm serving as a member of Metro Steering Committee. Catholic Charities is a major stakeholder in this corridor, serving people open-heartedly from all communities who are low income and in need. We are culturally responsive in providing immigration legal services, refugee resettlement, pregnancy and new family support, and licensed adoption services. Our culturally specific services through El Programa Hispano serve 15,000 Latino community members annually, including anti-poverty programs, school-based programs, and Project Unica, which serves women fleeing domestic violence and sexual assault. We own property within the Powell Division Corridor planning area, including offices and affordable housing communities. In addition, El Programa Hispano is headquartered in downtown Gresham. Our clients frequently rely on public transportation and infrastructure to access services, education, jobs, and their support networks. I'd like to go a little bit more specifically here and advocate that it is especially the children who live in our properties at 27th and Powell, many who are from refugee families, would benefit from the project components being proposed here. They attend school at Hosford Middle and Cleveland High School and overcome the real dangers of crossing Highway 26 2 to 4 times a day, risking both life and limb, as sadly witnessed from Sunday's accident. Frankly, this is an equity issue. When low-income kids are prevented safe routes to school, it hampers their access to education, limiting their opportunity to better paying employment, and as you know, these are critical pathways out of poverty. Through the resident services that we provide, we emphasize and support school attendance, high school completion, college enrollment. We have graduating seniors this year who would benefit significantly from bus rapid transit to Portland State and Mount Hood and Portland Community Colleges. We ask for your help here by entering into the project development phase as recommended and by working collaboratively with the county, Metro, ODOT on safety access issues that impact low-income communities and communities of color. Kudos to the Metro staff and council members for a robust process to gather input. Very early on, we identified equity as a priority for our planning effort. There are many racially diverse and low-income communities within this planning corridor, and I'm hoping that we take a serious stand on our values of diversity and equity through the project development phase. I second Rahi's recommendation here for an ongoing advisory committee regarding equity. Please consider a yes vote to enter into the project development phase, joining the formal request to seek FTA funding, and advancing the good work that has been completed so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you all very much. Is there more invited testimony?
And there is, and if we can, there's 4 other steering committee members here, and if we could try to squeeze all of them up in the space normally reserved for 3. We have Duncan Wong, Director of Development and Communications of Apano, Jessica Howard, President of the PCC Southeast Campus, Lori Boyson, Executive Director of the Division Midway Alliance, and Vivian Satterfield, Associate Director of Opal Environmental Justice. And while they're sitting down, I have to say that although I love all these organizations, Lori, I've always particularly loved the name Division Midway Alliance because it kind of sounds like you won the Second World War.
Okay, well, good afternoon, and thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you for all the support the city and Metro have offered us throughout the process. My name is Duncan Huang. I'm the program director of the J District at Apano, and I'm also a resident, so I both live and work in the district. So this community is very dear to my heart. Apano and the J District have had a substantial history of community engagement, both on this project and in general throughout the district. Just this spring, we convened about 100 people at Fubon to talk about the Powell Division BRT opportunity. Was done in 3 languages, so Chinese, Vietnamese, and English. And there was really overwhelming support for the BRT and having it on 82nd. I think there was a lot of apprehension, though, around the potential interruption of business and also effects of gentrification and displacement. I think I just read somewhere that in Cleveland, Cleveland saw a 10 to 30% bump in property values along their BRT. So I think that's a real threat that our community will be facing. And this project's just really important for our community because, we want to connect people to school and work, but we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to stay and enjoy those benefits. And we also want to make sure that it's not just about transit. It's really, as Rahi said, an economic development opportunity. And I was on that same canvas that Rahi was talking about as well. And I talked to someone that was a grandma that lived in the neighborhood for 30 years, and her son goes to community college. And I think their main priority was really walkability and safety. It's not just enough to have a transit line, but we need the infrastructure around it so that people can go from their neighborhood to a bus stop to where they need to go. So I think that really does require significant investment beyond just the transit line. And, last year we also had a traffic fatality on Valentine's Day. A 78-year-old community elder was killed walking across 85th and Division. So I think the need for this walkability and safety component is incredibly vital for the district, and I think the BRT project could really help leverage resources to address that. So on behalf of the Jay District, I'd really like to offer our support for the BRT process, and particularly for the 82nd alignment. Thank you.
Afternoon.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I'm Jessica Howard, and I'm the campus president of Portland Community College Southeast Campus, which is located at 82nd and Division. I also am very privileged to be able to serve on this steering committee for this project, and so thank you for allowing me to speak. I must say it's a little hard to do it when everyone who's come before you has made most of your points. However, what I'd like to offer to you are three things I think that make this particular project really extraordinary. One is the area itself. This region of Portland has been historically underserved, and it certainly perceives that it has been historically underserved. To engage the community, to ask it to think in terms of a vision for the future, makes this project far more than about transportation. It really is about not just getting from point A to point B or getting to connect to a point of opportunity, but it's about placemaking, and it's about community, and it's about generations of people into the future. And it's about dealing with the threat of gentrification and what we want to do right. And so I think that the stakes are very high in this region of the city, and I think that the opportunity to do good is very great. So that makes this project extraordinary in my mind, number one. Number two is this planning process has been tremendous. I am actually relatively new to Portland. I haven't been here yet 3 years. So I come from a different state. That state is Texas. It couldn't be more different. And so I've never seen a process this inclusive, this respectful, this collaborative. It's been tremendous. It's been an amazing opportunity to see really everyone have a voice. And it's just been incredibly thoughtful, and I can't commend the process itself enough. There's been wide engagement and lots of folks basically supporting the views of youth, the views of business, and the views of various cultural communities. So it's been just really solid. So I must say that makes this extraordinary. The last thing I'll say, and this may be no surprise, is that I really do view this, you've seen the image already of this being an education corridor, this concept. And I think that makes this extraordinary too, because it's about two very large community colleges, Mount Hood and Portland Community College, being connected on this line, but also the entire innovation quadrant, so-called, of Southeast Portland with OHSU and PSU, and also the PCC Climb Center, which is the incumbent worker training center, is also connected to the very western point of this proposed BRT line. All of these things make this, I think, truly an education corridor. Also, note that assuming that 82nd is the north-south point on the line, any person who comes to the PCC campus is connected up to the free PCC shuttle service, which runs through all of PCC, connecting anyone from Southeast Portland to locations as far away as the Rock Creek campus, which, as you know, is 27 miles away. It's quite far. And so that is a huge, again, connecting point in terms of how all this would flow. As you may be aware, the PCC Southeast Campus has undergone a huge change in the last 2 years because the community college, as a result of the huge bond that we passed in 2008, put a lot of money and a lot of investment into the location. So now that campus serves almost 12,000 students. It's expected to serve twice that number and is poised to do so. On the site of this particular campus is a small business development center. Unlike other campuses at PCC, notably Rock Creek, which has Intel in the backyard, we don't have one great big industry in that area. In fact, what you see are a tremendous number of small businesses. So having that resource there, I think, is huge. So all of those things to say, I think this is an extraordinary project, and I really hope that you will support its work going forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor Hales, commissioners. Thank you so much for inviting me and come speak today. It's challenging to think of what else I can add on to a lot of what's been said, but for the record, my name is Vivian Satterfield. I work for Opal Environmental Justice Oregon. I'm a steering committee member. I happen to also be a Foster Powell resident. I live just a block and a half off of Powell. So, and I don't have a driver's license. So I get around by bike and transit primarily, and I'm a budding new motorcyclist, which is really exciting. So all that to say that this is a project I really care about because it affects me, it affects my community, it affects people I care about, and I work along the corridor as well. I did want to thank Commissioner Novick for your work up until this point, and Director Treat's considerable time investment as well. The comments throughout the process really sets the tone for how we can expect to work together, and we greatly appreciate that. So again, just underscoring a lot of the comments that have come before, we really have an opportunity here to create a healthy and better connected community with opportunities for prosperity. At Opal, we really do talk about transportation as access to opportunity, and I think we have a unique opportunity here, especially connecting a lot of the education components, cultural components of the J District as well, and moreover, just creating transit opportunities for folks who are quite frankly really struggling in the area. So the key priority is to ensure people prosper and that we, again, have strong anti-displacement strategies and tools. I think we've all learned lessons from the past where in our region, similar in transportation investments, particularly high-capacity transit, when not paired with robust and substantial anti-displacement tools, however unintentionally, does result in or lead to gentrification and displacement. So, we continue to talk about housing in a primary transportation project, but I think it would be naive to not recognize the sort of investment that's being made in this area and how that's going to impact, a variety of sectors and issues. So, housing does have to be addressed separately. We need affordable housing by design and economic prosperity through living wage jobs in the corridor. I've said it in many community spaces, but I do strongly believe that housing is a community right. So housing production associated with transit investments is a right. So yes, again, this is a transportation project with more access to things, and I have heard a lot of concerns in the community about what our local bus service will look like as well, so that's something that I'll be tracking carefully along with our Bus Riders Unite group as we move forward. It's also a development project, however, that can really undercut some of these conceptual benefits which should go to the community. If the folks who live there now can't take advantage of it in the future, we will have failed at our jobs. I do want to encourage Council to support the resolution that's in front of you today and to continue to track the community stabilization recommendations that the steering committee members have been putting forward through implementation of this project. And obviously we're working on getting more tools in our toolbox to ensure that we've got more things that we can do around housing, but we really can't afford to wait, especially with the recent housing report. I'm just starting to dig through it, but just even seeing the visualization of the maps and seeing what sort of housing availability is being made in my community. I became a first-time homeowner, and my parents are immigrants, and I'm living their dream. of not having to go through the struggles that they did at my age. I'm doing far better than they ever did. And I want to make sure that that opportunity here in Portland, and I'm not a native Portlander either, I want to make sure that opportunity that I've been able to take and to have my piece of some kind of pie is going to be able to be afforded to other folks as well. It's real, it's tangible, and that's why we're being aggressive about it, quite frankly. So thank you so much for your support.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm Lori Boyce, and I'm the district manager for the Division Midway Alliance for Community Improvement, and this is driving me crazy.
We're going to replace it this year, so.
I also live near the corridor, and I work along the corridor. I am part of the steering committee. I'm also part of EPAP and the Economic Development Subcommittee at EPAP. I want to thank Commissioner Novick especially for the work that he put into this project from the outset, and recognizing he didn't have the capacity, and bringing Director Treat in when he was unable to attend was absolutely beneficial to us all. I urge you to please adopt the project development phase of this joint jurisdictional Powell Division Bus Rapid Transit project. The work that we've been doing has just been incredible. I really don't feel like I can add a lot to what's been already said. I would like to speak a bit about my experience with the steering committee. I think one of the things that I found the most impressive was the collaborative nature and the cooperation that all of these organizations and jurisdictions brought together. We were able to create productive and new partnerships that we've been able to move forward to help build capacity in our communities. With the placemaking grants that Brian spoke about earlier, Jade and Division Midway have been able to engage our community in a way that I haven't seen before now, and it just thrills me. We also, with an eye on equity, like-minded organizations joined together to establish community stabilization tools that we can use as we move forward to prevent displacement from our community members and from our and the businesses as well. We worked with the various jurisdictions involved to establish a list of tools that we thought would be feasible, and we've spoken to the Citizens Advisory Committee, and Vivian mentioned a bit about the no reduction in existing local transit service that we're our goal. We also are working on developing a robust construction mitigation program for local small businesses, and we're working with PDC, Portland Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, City of Gresham, to establish a cooperative and collaborative process. I've always kind of viewed our city as we're like a spider web. We all work together, we have our little areas, but if you touch the spider over here, if you touch this web and mess it over here, it's going to affect it over here. And we have to keep that in mind, and this process has been really good for that. My hope is that when we finish this process, that we have a robust bus rapid transit system on the Powell Division line that serves as a moniker for other municipalities to turn to, and I urge council to move us forward in this effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Okay, any other steering committee members here, Commissioner? And if not, are there some other folks that want to speak on this item?
No one else signed up.
Okay.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes.
To the commissioner in charge. I understand from the materials that the city's contribution would be the $2 million in systems development charges, among other things.
For this next phase, yes.
For this next phase. And I guess I just wanted to ask a technical question. You and the director typically have the discretion to allocate SDCs as you deem fit, right? And is the difference here that we as a council are agreeing that that would be the city's contribution to this collaborative project?
I think in a word, yes. Leah, do you have anything to add to that?
It's unusual for the council to vote on a question of allocating SDCs, and I think I understand the answer. I just want to make sure I proceed.
Well, another purpose of the resolution is to authorize city staff to prepare an IGA with Metro, which will then come back to us.
No, I actually like the fact that we're given the whole menu, but I just wanted procedurally to understand where we stand.
The SDC, my understanding of the SDCs, Commissioner, is there is an approved list from council, and this project, this is on the approved SDC list. If we were to try to create a new project to fund out of SDCs, we would have to come back to council to amend the list, if I have that correct.
But, I mean, since this is on the list, this is something
Correct.
normally we'd be able to do, as the commissioner said. However, we've chosen to bring this resolution, including a reference to the SDCs, to council.
And in effect, what we're doing is memorializing the commitment, that is in part, our financial contribution to this collective enterprise. Okay, good, thank you.
Correct. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, further discussion before we take action on the resolution? If not, then roll call vote on the resolution, please.
Fish?
Well, I'm very pleased to support this. This is the last official action I will take before I witness my daughter's graduation. And I'm pleased that it is in such a happy occasion with such a robust collaborative effort. And I want to thank the commissioner in charge and the director for their good work, all of our partners, and all the people who've testified. And I'm very pleased today to support this effort. Aye.
Saltzman?
Thank you for the for the work of the steering committee and everybody else, Commissioner Novick and everybody in the Bureau of Transportation. And I'm sure planning and sustainability is involved in this too, up to their ears. So good work. It's a great, thoughtful planning process. It reminds me of my young days when I served on the West Side Light Rail Citizen Advisory Committee and how we figured out things like, to do a tunnel or not at the zoo, things like that. So you're grappling with, issues that are very similar, but I think with a new special emphasis on displacement of people and on affordable housing as considerations. And I like, how it impacts existing transit riders too. I think that's going to be very important, how this project messes up with the needs of people that are only going a few blocks as opposed to a couple miles. So I think this is great. I think this is the first bus rail transit project in this, well, not the state of Oregon, but certainly city of Portland. And I like Mr. Stacy's comments about it, how we maybe have learned from other jurisdictions, and we will build upon that experience that other jurisdictions have had. So I'm sure we'll do a great job, and we just need to piece together the funding and to do it. So pleased to support it. Aye.
Novick?
This is an extremely exciting project. I mean, I asked Leah to stand in for me as our official steering committee representative, but I still make it to as many meetings as I can, and I think you can see why. I mean, the extent of community involvement and the excitement and initiative of people, of every organization involved is spectacular. And I mean, transit done right, particularly transit in underserved communities, can be a very powerful tool. I mean, if we can make it easier for people to get from place to place, if we can make it easier for people to save money by not having to use their car all the time, if we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions, I mean, that is building the world we want to live in. And this is a very exciting project, not only because a few years ago I read that the mayor of Bogota, Colombia had developed bus rapid transit and transformed the city. So I've always wanted to do a bus rapid transit project, but for all those other reasons. Aye.
Fritz?
Well, it's really terrific that this first bus rapid transit project is going to East Portland, and indeed is interjurisdictional, going all the way out to Gresham and looking at all of the key pearls along the way. And so I very much appreciate that, and also the testimony we heard here today, the collaborative spirit in which it's being done. I'm kind of envious as a resident of Deep Southwest that this one is going to move a lot faster than any kind of bus rapid transits or anything else on Barber. And so I think that's entirely appropriate given the needs in East Portland and the spirit which we're working on this. So thank you very much, Commissioner, for bringing it to Council so that we can all affirm. Thank you, Mayor, for affirming that indeed we do prioritize transit and pedestrians, and that is the highest priority for our investment. So I appreciate your investment of system development charges in this. Aye.
Mayor, may I interrupt? I just embarrassed myself by neglecting to thank Andrea Valderrama and my staff, who has worked tirelessly on this issue.
Hales?
Well, thank you all. I've been excited about this project for a while. Having heard this set of presentations, I'm even more excited. It's really an impressive project, and it's so well-founded in the community and in the geography. One of my favorite transit projects that I've been involved in was the airport light rail line, because it was scheduled to go into this kind of planning process in 2009, and we opened it in 2001. But that's because we as a community and with our partners decided to move quickly on an affordable project that we could actually do. And that's what you're about here. And in fact, the Small Starts program didn't exist at that time, but this is exactly the kind of project that it was created to support, is when a community has its act together, has a great project, it's affordable, and can move quickly. So, and that one, actually, I was thinking about the contrast. The public involvement process for that project consisted of 2 public meetings, because there were only 2 neighborhood associations affected, Sumner and Park Rose, and basically the public involvement process was, do you want a station or not, and where would you like it? And it was really pretty simple. And the answer was yes, they did want a station, and they knew exactly where they wanted it, and that's what they got. But this one's much more complex. I mean, it's 2 jurisdictions, it's dozens of neighborhoods, and yet you've done such a great job of bringing people in to the project. Secondly, you've done such a great job about thinking about equity and community uplift from the beginning. You know, that's ironically the name of the district coalition for the neighborhoods here, Southeast Uplift. Well, we don't have to worry about uplifting real estate values in Southeast Portland anymore. What we do have to worry about uplifting the people that live there and who'd like to stay there. And so those points have been made really eloquently. And you know, just thinking about 2 other meetings that I have this week that apply so directly to this. I was at the Metropolitan Workforce Alliance yesterday, all these folks that are working together to try to get young people into the trades, because construction is booming and the workforce is aging, and we've got all these young people, particularly young people of color, that we want to say, get into the trades. It's a great option. Maybe you need 2 years at PCC in order to qualify if you really want to be a welder, but here's how you do that. And so there's this huge need to make those connections. And on Saturday, I, along with a lot of other people that are be happy to do this, are going to be out at Franklin High School to celebrate their $100 million renovation, including the kind of space that enables the young people there to learn those trades. And I guess it just hadn't dawned on me until this hearing, the amazing number of students that they're going to be along this line. You've probably added it up, but Mount Hood Community College, David Douglas High School, PCC, Franklin, Cleveland, Climb, OHSU, and PSU, that's got to be 50,000, 60,000 students, even today, much less what it's going to be when those institutions continue to grow. And to connect all those kids to opportunity, to connect all those communities to the small businesses along this line, it really is an exciting project. So, and Councilor Stacy, I loved your earnest insistence on the timeline. Let's get this built quickly. Let's make sure that our planners are moving as quickly as you have to make sure that we do have the land use plan in place to support this project. That'll be one of my to-do list and commitments from this discussion, but very well done so far. This is going to be another great Portland success story, and I thank you all for queuing it up for the whole community. Aye. And we're adjourned. Thank you.